Good morning. I would like to thank you all for taking the time out of your days to watch this video. Over the course of the last year, every Sunday we have learned lots, made new friends and gotten a better idea of what we want to do with our lives. It's tradition that at the end of that year, each set of juniors creates a project. Now normally this would be more hands-on and we would invite you all to the Conservatoire building to see a shore project, but due to the current circumstances, we've created this video for you instead. This video will lead you along a treasure map, letting you follow a journey similar to the one that we have been on over this past year. The first step on the map is Starry Starry Night. This represents the 2 weeks we spent in lighting, learning all about the different types of lights and the effect this can have on a set. At this stop, William is going to tell you and show you all about lighting. Next we hit Thunder Mountain. This represents the 2 weeks we spent in sound learning how to create soundscapes and how important this can be for telling a story. Dominique has created a soundscape to demonstrate the work we learned and what it would be like at Thunder Mountain. We are now approaching the vibrant volcano. This represents the time we spent focusing on stage management. We learned all of the different jobs that they have to do and just how hectic things can be. Here to say a little bit more is Zara.
Hi, welcome to Stage Management. There are 3 different types of stage managers. The first one is a stage manager. They need to have a good general understanding of all aspects of production, such as lighting, sound, and set. They make sure that the production runs smoothly. They organise the day-to-day running of the theatre company from rehearsals right through to the performances and then post-show. They communicate with the full company and organise each team to ensure a smooth running. The next is a deputy stage manager. They often read off a prompt book to call the show to tell different areas what to do and when to do it. They sit in on rehearsals, note down every move from actors in their prompt books, and it needs to be highly detailed. They also take down the different technical aspects during the show, such as lighting and sound. The last is an assistant stage manager. In a large production, there may be a few, but in a smaller production, there may be none. This is an entry level in the profession. The stage manager can also be responsible for sourcing props and then making a props table so it is easier for actors to find their props. Here are a few examples of the props tables we made at home. The assistant stage manager checks the props tables before the performance every night to ensure everything is there and that they are all of good quality. When we learned about stage management, we learned the different kinds of shows you could work on and the different theatres. We also thought about what key skills you need to have become a stage manager, such as organisation, problem solving and punctuality. Thank you.
After this, we make our way to the Mighty Mountains. This represents the time we spent in set design, learning how to build a model box and use scales, and focused a lot on our inner creativity. At this stop, Charlotte is going to tell you all and show you all about set design.
Charlotte Brown, and my job was set design. So for what I wanted to do, my task was to design a kind of Alp mountain scene. So for that I wanted to do something using like cardboard and specifically showing off mountains. So I used cardboard, any spare cardboard that we had. I painted it white and then I did purple accents on it because I know quite a lot mountains are associated with shadows, and I really like how the shadows kind of accentuate it. I also wanted to do some rocks, so I made these rocks out of paper mache, which was just newspaper, and then I kind of taped it all together, painted it, and then added some moss to it. And then I also added ivy to these logs. I cannot lift them up because they are very, very heavy, but I added ivy to these logs, which I think actually work really, really well, and they kind of show that it's not all about snow in mountains. There's also some gorgeous mountains which have trees in them. So I, for set design, when we were at the Wallace Studios doing set and costume design with Robin, I really enjoyed it actually, and I really liked learning how to make a model box properly, how to scale everything out so that you could get the scales correct. and I think that it actually worked really well. So when we did Layment for a Lost Dinner Ticket, we basically designed a poem which was about a lost dinner ticket, and I designed this set which had a washing machine in it, since the dinner ticket gets lost in a washing machine. And I think it worked really well. On one of the flats, which is in the model box, which is basically just a drape that hangs down, I did spend about 2 hours trying to make the brick wall, which I'm sure many of my associates in the group will say that they teased me quite a bit for it. But it was still a lot of fun, and I really, really enjoyed making the costumes. I really enjoy imagining costumes, and especially sets, and seeing what I can come up with, symbolism wise and just creatively, because I really like being creative. Being in quarantine and doing the junior conservatoire, I'm not gonna lie, has been a little bit challenging. I do prefer it when we're actually like there at RCS doing our usual stuff, but I mean, we've managed to survive, all of us. I mean, we've managed to, you know, keep going with all our stuff and keep doing it, and I have actually really enjoyed it, but I'm still finding it just a little bit hard to kind of come up with everything, but it is still a lot of fun. So for this, I'm very, really happy with how it turned out, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the performance.
Next on our map is the Mermaid's Cove. This represents the time we spent in both wardrobe and costume design, where we learned about the different things we need to consider when creating an outfit and the complications wardrobe may face. Ishbel has created a costume representing her interpretation of Mermaid's Cove and is going to talk to us about her experience with costume design.
Hiya, I'm Ishbel, and for this year's Juniors project, I'll be taking on the role of costume design and construction for the theme of treasure hunt. I was given the stimulus of Mermaid Cove to create my costume around, so I'll be showing you my design process and what I did to create the costume, as well as some of my favourite moments throughout the year. So enjoy! So to start my design process, I did a bit of research into mermaids and like marine life to like figure out elements that I might want to include into my costume, and I looked at the difference between mermaids and sirens. And so mermaids are kind of like a more beautiful, gentle kind of thing, who just look like pretty, and then sirens are kind of darker and then they try and kill people by drowning them. And so I thought it'd be good to include elements of both, because I do quite like doing design that's more like dark. And so which led me to create my final design, which is here. And so for the top, I've decided to I'll glue some shells to a bra and include some netting across the top to make it look like stuck in like a fishnet or something, with bits of seaweed hanging down. And then on the bottom half, I'll have a pair of shorts on with a bit of fabric tied around my waist to kind of look like a beach wrap, but with a scaled pattern on it to give the idea of a mermaid tail, and kind of making her look like half like kind of fish and half like person. And then I'll also have bits of kind of like single-use plastic on like the top, and incorporated into my makeup to make a statement about like plastic pollution and how it's like killing marine life and that. So yeah, that's my final design that I hope to create. Alright, so to start my costume design, I collected some shells from a nearby beach because I knew I'd need to use them. Then I cleaned off the sand and anything else that was stuck to them. After the shells were all dry and that, I began hot gluing them onto an old bra that I hadn't worn in ages. This was good, apart from the occasional time I burned my fingers, which wasn't too much fun. But yeah, that's what I did to create the top. And then I was down to a couple finishing touches, so I cut up some of the scraps of the old pillowcase that were left, and I painted them green, glued a bit of sand to them, made seaweed out of them, and then I glued them onto the bottom of the top to give it more of a dynamic. So one of my favourite sessions from this year was back in September or October, when we had introduction to props, and we made a bunch of fake wounds and fake fingers with silicone, and it was really fun. to do, because it was something I hadn't done before, and also you could send pictures of the wounds to your friends afterwards to make them think they were real and trick them into thinking you'd like actually damaged your finger. And then also I remember when we made fake fingers, some of them didn't turn out as expected, with some going green or blue. So yeah, but that week was very good. So for the tail, I used an old pillowcase as the fabric. I cut it to shape and then worked on drawing scales in blue, purple and green in acrylic paint mixed with a wee fabric medium. And then once it was all dry, I filled in scales with some watercolour paint. Then I did my makeup to complement the costume, keeping with the blue, green and purple theme I'd gone for. And yeah, I was very happy with the finished look. And then also put my hair up, half down, and back combed it to give it a bit of frizz and make it look like I was a bit mad. So this is the completed costume, and I was very happy with how it turned out, how it looked so similar to the design. However, one thing I was less happy with is I'd have liked to have made it more detailed, especially in the tail. Thanks for watching this video on my costume design, and I hope everyone stays safe and well. And so yeah, that's all. Bye!
We are now heading towards the jungle vines, which represents the time we spent focusing on technical stage management. We learned how to use a fly system and the way cues work. Here to show us a bit more about that is Ryan. Now we are stopping at the wall and ruins. This represents the 2 weeks we spent in set construction, learning how to use drills and build flats. At this stop, Dominique is going to tell you about this experience and show us an example of this work.
Construction is when you make the set. So it's the process of building the stage that the actors are going to stand on and making sure that it's safe. When we did this, we had 2 weeks, and our first week was using the tools and making sure we were safe, and our second week was actually making the flats. The first week we were learning how to keep ourselves safe while using the tool and how to use the tool safely. So we were using ear defenders and safety goggles to make sure that nothing went in our eyes and our ears didn't get damaged. Then we practiced with wood, pieces of scrap wood, to drill them together so that drilling them together and how you would get them together using the drill. So we practiced measuring, making guide holes, and putting the screws in. Then we started making things, just putting wood together, making things. Then we looked at the flats that we were going to be making next week, made a cutting list and measured everything out, got ready for the next week. The next week, we started making our flats. There's two types of flats, on edge and pin plated. On edge, flat that you make with a drill, and it's where you have pieces of wood and you drill them into a square box. And you drill them into a square box. Then you put a piece of plywood on the back and you glue it on to the back, and you use a staple gun going with the grain to staple it onto it to make sure it's secure. Then we made a pinned and plated flat, which is using air compression. It's on its side, so you have the wide part, and it's easier to make. So it doesn't look as nice and it doesn't look as neat, but it's easier to make and requires less measurements. So we had flat bit, then we put a piece of wood here, and we did this staple gun. Then we made the whole frame, and we put brackets into the corners, and then we put plywood corners onto the corners and the joints to make sure that they would stay together well. So we glued them on and we stapled them in. Then we turned the frame over, we glued a big sheet of plywood on, and then we stapled it in to make sure it was secure with the grain. Then we were done.
With our journey coming soon to a close, we now approach the Sunset Valley. This represents the 2 weeks we spent in scenic art, learning how to scale up a drawing and how to correctly apply a base. Erin has created a Sunset Valley for us and is going to discuss her process and her time in scenic art.
Welcome, you have arrived to your destination, the Sunset Valley, and it's stunning. And you're probably wondering, is this a real place? No, it's not. It's a painting because it's scenic art. Yes. Okay, now you're seeing me going speedily fast, and I was adding water to paint to make a mixture, and this mixture is called a base or a primer. You do you, whatever you want to call it. And I just applied this base primer. I'm going to call it base for now on, okay? And I just applied it to this slab of wood I had, what I'm going to call my canvas. And I applied 2 layers of this. And it really helped. It made the paint on top, what I'm adding right now, apply way easier. And you can see I used really bold colours for this. I don't know why I used like really bold green, but I did. I had a plan. I can't remember that plan, but it was a plan. And the white really let that bold green really come through and show its true colours. And the reason we add the water to the white paint was to make that mixture easier to apply. And yes, so right now I was just blocking in colours of mountains, rocks, the river, sorry if you can hear my dog, the river and other things. And then you can't see me doing it right now, but you'll see me later just adding highlights and layers after layers of detail. Not much detail, a wee bit of detail to make it look a bit more realistic. And yeah, oh wow, there's Henry the Hoover. Yes, what an icon. He's an icon. We miss Henry. Gone but not forgotten. He's probably having a great time at us, yes. So yeah, like I said, just kept building up on it, building colours, building detail and different layers. And that's all I can really say about my process. I think if you just watch it, you'll get it. So now I'm just going to talk about the session we had at Scenic Art. So our instructor was called Gary, and I'm not too sure his last name, but we just called him Gary. And the very first thing we did was we discussed about scenic art, and we discussed what a scenic artist does and what we think of when we think of scenic art and how to describe it with words. So like time manageable and other things like that, patient. We also looked at old projects that he did recently at RCS when he used scenic art, and we talked about them, and we just discussed. We did a lot of discussing. We also had homework, and it was to go on the Facebook page and to look at all the students' work that they've done in the past and how to ask interesting interesting questions. I can't remember these questions, but I'm sure they were interesting. I believe they were. We also got told about this website called Paperclip, and it showed us different things about scenic art. And we also talked about paintings and how you can get this book, and it's really cheap, and it's the guy who did Grand Designs, and it's doing like houses and stuff. It's a cool book, and it's about colours and everything like that. And we also talked about where you can get the paints, and I can't remember what the place was called, but he told you and if you had any questions, they will help you and tell you what you need. After that little big chat, we got given these pieces of paper, and they were 5 centimeters, roughly a bit bigger than an inch, so very small, and a big piece of paper. With a big piece of paper, we had to make it into a square, but we couldn't use a knife. We couldn't use scissors. Oh yeah, I should say, on the little square, it was like a square of scribbles, and we had to copy those scribbles on the bigger piece of paper. And we weren't allowed to use any rubbers, no rulers, nothing. We just had to do it all freehand. And if we made a mistake, we had to own that mistake. Because we used charcoal, which is kind of hard. And then we all had one of these pictures each. Some of us had two. And we were really confused. We were like, why are we drawing scribbles? Okay, that's cool, but fine. So at the end, after we drew our scribbles, it was like a pile of just scribbles, but then we put them together, and it was like a puzzle. Put them together, and it was like a puzzle, and oh my gosh, it was like magic. There was a man appeared, a man with mustaches. We made a big old picture, and there was a man with a mustache. It was cool. That man with a mustache, he was another icon with Henry. They're probably having such fun during a lockdown. And then on the next day, the next session, we made these flats a wee while back in construction. We painted, and we actually used the same technique that I used in the beginning of this video with the white, adding the water to the white paint. So we used that technique to paint on it. And we also, I should say, with the big man face with scribbles, we did the scribbles as it taught us the scaling things. So we also did scaling in this session, and we had to draw. It was like a fancy design, like what you might see on a pack of cards. I'm not too sure what it's called, but we had to do that, and that was that session. And yeah, that's what we did. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. The highlights will probably be Henry the Hoover, and then yeah, it was good. Everything was like a highlight, I would say, actually, when I think about it. And I learned a lot as well. And I'll look after paintbrushes. I just have to point out, wow, looking at depth created by the highlights, by those colours. Stunning. You're getting closer to that destination every minute.
I'm a real fibber. Get back in the bathtub.
We are now approaching our last stop on the map before we reach the treasure, the rapid river. This represents the time we spent focusing on props, where we were shown different techniques such as how to mould clay. So last but not least, here is Saskia telling you about her experience in props.
Hi, I'm Saskia, and for the project we were doing, I was in charge of props. and I had to go around my house and try and find things that I could use to recreate a sort of ship. So I managed to find some old bed sheets, and I hung them up on kind of a balcony bit I had either side of each other, so and pinned them down in a way so it looked like the wind was getting to them and it wasn't that flat looking, and it gave it a bit more of a 3D kind of look. I also had some old rope in my shed, so I hung it up in a U shape in the middle, so it didn't really fade into the colour of the wood, and also to kind of give it a bit more of an interesting look. I also had this old mirror in my room, and it kind of reminded me of the kind of old windows you had in ships, or the little mirrors. So I used that and I put it on the ledge bit, so it was in the middle, and that was a fun little project to do. I think that props has been my favourite thing to learn about, because it was also the thing I was interested in doing. I remember in one of the lessons we did, we had to make our fingers out of these moulds, and it was really fun because we got to choose like how we wanted to decorate it, like if it was like natural or if you wanted to be a bit like a zombie looking finger. So for mine, I did it kind of a bit like it was dead looking, so it doesn't really match my skin tone. But I feel like everyone enjoyed that week, and it was really fun to learn how to do the moulds and decorating it. And I think my dad was more excited because when I brought it home, he realised he could prank all the teachers at schools with it, and he got a bit excited with that, so I had to take it off him and hide it for him for a couple of days. But overall, I feel like props has been the best thing to learn, and I found it interesting how we did like a mixture of everything, because you come in and you think you know what you want to do, and things you think, oh, I'm not going to be interested in that, and it's normally the complete opposite. You think you won't like something and you normally end up doing it, and I found it really fun, and also to learn the different skills of what people do behind production. So yeah.
We have now at last reached the treasure. So after digging up the spot marked X, we find a chest, and in opening it we find something very, very special which we would like to share with you all.
whisper through the phone. Wait for me to come home. Loving can hurt. Loving can hurt sometimes, but it's the only thing that I know. When it gets hard, you know it can get hard sometimes. It is the only thing that makes us feel alive. We keep this love in a photograph. We make these memories for ourselves, where our eyes are never closing, our hearts are never broken, and time's forever frozen still. So you can keep me inside the pocket of your ripped jeans, holding me closer till our eyes meet. You won't ever be alone. And if you hurt me, well, that's okay, baby. Only words bleed inside these pages. You just hold me, and I won't ever let you go. Wait for me to come home. Loving can heal. Loving can mend your soul. And it's the only thing that I know. I swear it will get easier. Remember that with every piece of you. And it's the only thing we take with us when we die. Oh, you can fit me inside the necklace you got when you were 16. Next to your heartbeat where I should be. Keep it deep within your soul. Wait for me to come home. 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 When I'm away, I will remember how you kissed me under the lamppost back on 6th Street, hearing you whisper through the phone.
That is us, now at the end of our journey, both finished looking through the treasure and at the end of this year with the Royal Conservatoire. We would like to thank everyone who has helped us along that journey, each other, Megan and Roz, each of the instructors we've seen, and also our parents. We would like to also thank you all for taking the time out to watch this video and hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed it just as much as we enjoyed making it. Thank you again, and stay safe.